Senior BJP leader and former Minority Affairs Minister Smriti Irani is joining us live. Ma'am, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV. You would have heard the debate playing out in Parliament that this is a violation of multiple articles of the Constitution, and this is also a violation of what is being seen as a federal structure. As someone who has been involved in the draft of this bill, what are your thoughts?
I think that if I begin with Article 26, that is with regards to management of religious affairs of a particular religion. If you look at the proposed bill, this bill speaks to the management of the affairs of the board and not of the religion as such. I think what also needs to be clarified here, that when I heard somebody speak about the rights of the state being usurped, the board is to be fundamentally constituted by the state government. That is the proposal of the government of India. There is also conversations around Article 25, which speaks about the freedom to practice or preach one's religion. Nowhere in the entire bill that has been proposed by the government of India is there any aspect of the bill that speaks to prohibition of practices of Islam, the religion itself, or preaching of Islam. I also believe that when members of the opposition spoke about Article 14, which is with respect to equality under law, one has to ascertain what is the equality one speaks about that is proposed in this very bill. If you're a Hindu, if you're a Parsi, if you're a Sikh or a Christian, who certifies whether your property is truly yours, that certification or that accreditation is done by the revenue officer. Why should somebody in the Muslim community be bereft of that right? So today the proposal of the government under the bill now allows for the Waqf which is created, whether it is truly the property of the individual creating the Waqf, that can only be ascertained by the revenue officer, and that is exactly what the proposed bill talks about. There has been members of the opposition's attempt to confuse between the survey commissioner and the role of the revenue officer. Now the survey commissioner can keep surveying lands at will or at the direction of either the board or the government. But ultimately, which is the authority which can conclude whether you genuinely own that property or not? That function is only done by the revenue officer. I also believe that the bill proposes that the earnings of the Waqf now can be utilized for women in the Muslim community or either widowed or divorced. Why should the opposition oppose this? The proposed bill also talks about the legal framework that should be available to Muslim women to protect their inheritance rights if they feel that they have been absolved of it by the board or by a Muttawali. Muttawali, Maria, for a larger understanding of the term, can be loosely spoken of from the context of somebody managing that property. The proposal of the government is that if an individual has usurped the lands of either a board or somebody in the Muslim community as cannot be appointed as Muttawali, I think that should be welcomed. The fact that for years on end people said that the decisions of the board could not be challenged in court, that the decisions, if one has been reached by that tribunal, cannot be taken to court, is an issue that needs to be addressed. And the government then provides Muslims the opportunity to approach the High Court. Why should the opposition deny Muslim community the right to approach a court? And I think what has gotten the goat of many opposition leaders is the taking out of the provision of Waqf by user. I am sitting in Delhi today, Paharganj, Karol Bagh, Chandni Chowk. You heard the government talk about an entire village in Tamil Nadu declared as Waqf because koi Mughaliya Sultanate se aakar wahan par kuch kar gaya tha. The person who actually owns the land, his entire rights have been usurped. And I think that when you look at all these cases, they itself speaks to the need for the change that we see today that has been brought in the form of the bill called Ummeed.
Ma'am, one of the criticisms is that what really is the haste first, and second, that in this board that will be constituted, the new proposed...
What is?
What was really the haste?
May I just go back to the first question?
Why was the government in hurry?
So how many more years should Muslim women and poor Muslims wait? according to the opposition? How many more years should Muslims be denied the right to approach courts? How many more years should dalals be allowed to usurp the lands of Muslims? How many more years was to be given to such dalals according to the opposition?
Okay. Ma'am, then that brings me to my next question of what the opposition says and some of the critics of the bill, that this new board which will be constituted will have non-Muslims. The government on its part, as we heard from the Minority Affairs Minister, said that the consultative process was held and that that members from the Pasmanda Muslims and the Bohra Muslims were in particular of the opinion that there should be more participation on their part. Is the government dealing
I think,
with
Maria,
these too
since
many
I'm the one who held the consultation,
yes.
Let me just say vehemently that not only Bohras but also Shias, Sunnis, Ahmadiyas and Aga Khanis were party to consultations. Not only people in state capitals but also people from smaller towns, villages, cities came, met me, spoke to me, and I, as the chairperson of the Central Waqf Council, somebody who is a practicing Hindu, somebody who is a woman, have worked on these issues. Now, I have held that position for a good 1.5 to 2 years.
Okay.
Did any of us usurp any masjid? Did I go out and give an azan anywhere? Did I usurp a qabristan? Did I not know how to apply the law? I did. Now, what are the non-Muslims being proposed? Again, to the board. Judges who had served earlier on high courts and supreme courts. Are we to doubt the integrity of judges now in this country and their service record on the basis of their religion? Members of parliament who can be non-Muslim. Today, how many members who are non-Muslim from the opposition who spoke against the government?
Ma'am, my last question. Since the
Did they
bill
not
is
have the
now-
capacity to do so?
Since the bill has
Because
now
they are
gone
non-Muslims?
to the Joint Parliamentary Committee, there will be more consultative process that will happen. Is this a more accommodative government? Because in the last 10 years, we haven't really seen any of the bills go to JPCs.
Of course it is. I think that what is fascinating is that, like I said, I'm the person who had a consultation not only across all facets of the Muslim community, but also close to 18 to 20 state governments, though the clarion call was given to all state governments and all state boards. I think what is extremely prudent to note today is that while the government has ascertained on the floor of the House that there has been exhaustive consultation done, however, if the Vipaksh so wants, if the opposition so wants, the government gave it one more opportunity to speak, but speak to facts and with evidence. Now, the government has upheld not only Article 14, 25, 26, but also Article 30 today was made more than evident. But nobody from the opposition could explain why managers of a Muslim Waqf should be allowed unbridled powers with no accountability. Nobody from the opposition could explain why no Muslim who creates a Waqf should not have the right to ascertain their documents through the revenue officer. And nobody today from the opposition could explain why the Congress party and the Congress-led government UPA allowed non-Muslims to create Waqf. Everybody who knows Islam and who has read the Quran, and I have, we know that the Waqf is a part of Islamic faith and practice. How come nobody in the opposition asked why non-Muslims were allowed to create Waqf who do not pursue the Islamic faith?
All right.
So I think the government has tried to answer many questions, tried to provide solutions, and it is a compliment to the collaborative democratic process undertaken by Modi ji that his government has proposed the constitution of the JPC so that nobody in the opposition could say that this particular proposal of the government has been shoved down the throat of either the opposition or of a particular community. The government needs to be complimented on its yet another effort to bring about collaboration and cooperation in Parliament.
All right, Smriti Irani, always a pleasure to speak to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time here on NDTV. Former Minority Affairs Minister there, explaining the position of the government and also how it was during her tenure that consultative processes were held. That's all from me.